Hey guys, thanks for watching and welcome to the video. In this video, we'll be talking about the CCA CRA, the CCA CRA Plus, the CCA CRA new version, and the reason why is I've seen this question asked a few times, so we're going to do measurements of each and talk about the difference between them. These are all budget options. The CCA CRA original isn't available anymore, but the new version of the CRA and the CRA Plus are about $20 and $25 respectively. The reason why I'm doing this video is I've seen it asked a few times if the new CCA CRA are as good or better than the old CCA CRA. And since I have the original, and I could get the new one pretty inexpensively, I thought it would make sense to acquire a set. And so I can tell you guys what I think of them. We're going to be listening to music, and then we're also going to look at the frequency response graphs of each of them. And I'm going to give you some audio samples that you can listen to see what you think about the different sets. I'll do the tests using the tips that came in the box with the new CCA CRA model just to keep measurements consistent and the sound consistent. Before listening to any of these, let's talk about how the CCA CRA sounded to me when they originally came out. The CCA CRA were the first budget set I ever listened to that really blew me away. I still think they have a really distinctive sound. The lack of note weight is offset by an incredibly fast moving and detailed reproduction of music that can keep up with just about anything out there, but you don't get a lot of note weight. Bass comes across very clean and powerful as well, but it does miss a bit of detail. It's a very good trade off, though, especially at the price point. When the CCA CRA Plus came out, I wasn't very impressed with it. To me, it sounded a lot like the 10T3 Plus and the Aria, and I was just bored with the style when it came out. But thinking back, it did offer a similar response to those others at a much lower price point, so maybe it's worth taking another look. If you are new to the channel, my name is Jeremy, and I created this channel to realistically look at the value end of the audio spectrum and compare what you can get to the more expensive IEMs out there. I'll always be looking for the best price to performance ratio, and I really enjoy finding items that perform their price point. So if you're a cheapskate or just on a budget, I'm probably your guy. I appreciate you watching and thanks for stopping by. If there's anything at all I can do to help you on your audio journey, feel free to drop me a note below. All right, let's get started. We'll break this up into sections: initial impressions, frequency responses, and audio samples. Feel free to skip around using the chapters in the description if you'd like to. All testing will be done using an iPhone 14 Pro Max using an American 1-volt version of the Apple dongle. Without looking at the frequency response graphs or doing any kind of other analysis, we're going to just do a quick listen to each of these and see how they feel. My impressions could be completely wrong, and we'll look at actual frequency responses and audio samples later in the video. Actually, I'm recording this after, but I've already done that, but I won't spoil it for you. Anyway, let's get to it. My initial impression of the CCA CRA new version is it's got a crispy sound for vocals and guitars and Dave Matthews Crash, and good, deep, clean bass on Lil Wayne's A Mello. In Hotel California by the Eagles from Live on MTV performance from 1994, it gives a good sense of soundstage with the crowd sounding distinctly separated from the music. Instruments are clearly separated and easy to place on the soundstage. By memory, it seems to be a more full note weight while keeping the clean crispiness of the old CRA. I didn't feel any sense of stabbiness at all in the vocals. Vocals sound clean with good definition, but not harsh or piercing. Switching to the original CCA CRA using the same tips, my impression was of a possibly cleaner, but maybe slightly lesser note weight. Listening to Dave Matthews, bass feels very similar, but vocals, hi-hats, etc. feel more fatiguing with a bit of harshness. There seems to be less of a feeling of instrument separation, but more of a sense of being immersed in the center of the soundstage. Listening to a Millie, Lil Wayne's voice feels more grating and harsher, but maybe a little bit more detailed. Bass feels higher in volume, but it does feel less controlled. Listening to Hotel California, the same impression continues. Instruments are clearly separated on the soundstage, but they do feel a little vaguer in their placement. The crowd feels closer, and there's less of a feeling of separation that is clear from the stage and the crowd. vocals and guitars feel slightly fatiguing almost immediately. Listening to the CRA Plus, vocals on Crash feel more smoothed over and less detailed, so they're warmer but with a good weight, but they're less energetic. Instruments in general feel warmer and smoother, but less separated and harder to place on the soundstage. The upside to this is it's got a smoother presentation that would be better suited to half listening sessions while working, for instance, or maybe while you're trying to go to sleep. I just realized that doesn't sound like the best thing, but it actually is a good thing in this situation. They're just laid back. They're like a pair of well-worn shoes that you put on your feet because you don't want to mess up your new shoes, but they also just feel very comfortable, if that makes any sense. A Milli works perfectly on these, with a pushed back vocal energy, allowing for bumping the volume a little and allowing you to get a more powerful bass punch with no vocal fatigue feeling at all. So if you're into hip hop, these might be the move. Hotel California feels great as well with a good mix of soundstage, but it has a warmer presentation of the guitars. Some of the details seem like they're gone from the instruments, but not enough to notice except by comparison. There is a lightly muted feeling to it, like the energy is being reduced for the sake of a smoother presentation, but it's still very good. Vocals give the same impression of being mellowed out and laid back, but keep enough energy to make them interesting. This allows for a bump in volume that brings everything more into focus without being fatiguing as well. So if you like higher volume listening, these could be for you. Okay, so that's initial impressions. Let's get into the frequency responses in the audio samples. I'm still learning about capturing frequency response graphs, so if there's anything I can improve on these, please let me know. I capture these using REW on PC and average the left and right performance while narrowing the graph to 20 Hz by 20,000 Hz and an SPL of 85 to 30. I matched everything at 85 dB at 1000 Hz so I could normalize the levels between the different captures. For those not familiar with frequency response graphs, you read them left to right. According to SoundGuy's 20 to 300 Hertz accounts for bass, 300 to 4000 Hertz accounts for mids, and anything above 4000 is going to be treble. Higher means there is more, lower means there is less, believe it or not. Bassy parts of the music will be in the low end, guitars and vocals are in the mid range, and tinkly instruments like hi-hats on drums will be in the treble area. The chart reflects what I noticed when listening to each of these. The original CCA CRA has a higher sub bass response than the others, and it tapers off in the mid bass area. That helps it be very clean while being more the type of bass you feel rather than the type you hear. The new CCA CRA has a little less bass in general than the original, which makes it sound more controlled, but still pleasing for bass heavy songs. The CCA CRA Plus has less sub bass for that impactful bass feeling, but more of the warm bass notes that make it a more laid back listen while still giving a good amount of thump to bassy tracks. The mid range on these are very similar, with the new and old CCA CRA being almost identical. The CCA CRA Plus has a little more energy in the upper mids, but then drops off in the treble region, which may be why it feels it's less fatiguing to listen to. The new CCA CRA has the most energy in the treble range, followed by the original CCA CRA, then the CCA CRA Plus. And listening, got the feeling that there was less harshness in the new CRA, but looking at the graph, the new CRA has more energy in the low treble areas, and the old CRA has a little more in the higher treble frequencies. I'm guessing the tweaking they did here contributes to the less fatiguing sound I felt with the new unit, but not 100% sure. I just know what I heard with my ears is that they were a little easier to listen to, but given that I'm not sure about how this works, I expected all the treble areas to be down a little bit. So it was a little bit surprising to me when I read it that way, but maybe you guys will know why that is. And if so, then let me know. All right, let's get into sound samples. I recorded the same music using each of these units to an IEM measurement microphone. This won't be a perfect comparison to how they sound in real life. You have your own listening device with its own tuning that will further change the sound, but this should help you get a feeling for each of them and the difference in tonal qualities between them. For gaming, all CCA CRA models are usable for gaming, but the CCA CRA Plus definitely falls behind. It has a more vague and warm sound signature, which we talked about before, which is great for music when you want a more laid back mood, but it doesn't do a great job of telling you exactly where enemies are coming from on the battlefield. So if you only care about hearing gunshots and voices and directionality isn't important to you, they'll do fine. But if you want detail, I would look at one of the other models. I was surprised when comparing the new and old models of the CCA CRA. The new model is cleaner and more polite. It has very good directionality and detail and is a very good gaming IEM. I was surprised though that I still prefer the original CCA CRA. It has just more, it's a little wilder. It's got more punch in the bass and more in the way of the way it's just the treble is very in your face and prevents it very strong, but in the way that it is tuned, that also gives you a lot of detail and energy into enemies' voices, and the bass just feels more powerful. It still gives you the same sense of direction you need, but it's just a little bit more fun presentation than the new one. Now that being said, the new one works great. It's really good in terms of all the performance you would ask for of it. It gives you good bass, it gives you good location, it gives you good directionality, pretty good soundstage. So I mean, for a budget set, it works great for gaming with an IEM, but it's just not quite as much fun to use as the original CCA CRA is, and you can't get that one anymore. So sorry, but that's what you get. All right, so it's my conclusion. I was prompted to do this video, but I was asking if the CCA CRA is still a good buy now that they've changed the tuning for it. I definitely think it is. It gives you a cleaner soundstage and tighter bass and more definition and clarity, and it's a little bit less fatiguing in the upper mid-range areas where you hear vocals. So that's a good thing. The original sometimes gave you this feeling of fatigue while listening, and it was very crisp, but it just kind of wore you out a little bit. I still prefer the original for gaming, but the new one's pretty good and even better if you're looking for something with a less aggressive sound for gaming. Of course, if you want something more laid back to listen to, consider the CCA CRA Plus. Just know it isn't going to be the best for gaming. It's great though if you want something to listen to for longer sessions that can fade into the background and not cause much fatigue. So that's what I got. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate all you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do not mind, and leave any questions you have below. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.